4 other African teams can join Morocco and qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup and Matchday 8 of the exact same World Cup qualifiers. We're going to talk about all of that coming up on the African Five Side podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasacountry.com. As you can see, I'm not at home today. I'm actually at the Bajaya Film Festival in Bajaya. So I'm in this huge room where a bunch of people are working on their different films and organization and logistics for the film festival. And so apologies if there's any background noise. Apologies if the video and audio quality are not up to par. But I had to get this video out as quickly as possible because starting from tomorrow, there are a few teams that can qualify for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. Morocco have already qualified, as mentioned. Tunisia can qualify with a victory over Equatorial Guinea. They're playing in Equatorial Guinea. Algeria are going to go play in Guinea. If Algeria beat Guinea and then Mozambique and Uganda either draw or lose their matches, then Algeria is through as well. Egypt can qualify with a draw or a victory over Burkina Faso in Ouagadougou. And then South Africa can qualify with a win over Nigeria and a Benin draw or loss versus Lesotho. Also, if the litigation goes their way, we're going to talk about that coming up next. But I didn't really want to talk about those teams that are on the cusp of qualifying because I don't think there's too much suspense, to be honest, in any of them. South Africa notwithstanding, I think, Tunisia, Algeria, and Egypt have pretty much wrapped up qualification. What I wanted to talk about were these really juicy, delicious clashes coming up over the next 24 to 48 hours where it's really two teams vying for a single place, and often these two teams are playing against one another. So we have Ghana versus Mali on Monday, September 8th. On Tuesday, September 9th, we have DR Congo versus Senegal. Then we have South Africa versus Nigeria fighting for a single place, Cape Verde versus Cameroon fighting for a single place, and Gabon versus Cote d'Ivoire fighting for a single place. I really wanted to preview and talk about those matches because I think they're going to be drama-filled, marquee matchups. Get your popcorn now. I think these are going to be some of the most entertaining matches we've had on the African continent in a very long time. So we're going to start with that first match, Ghana versus Mali. And this is the one I'm going to be really the shortest about. I'm really going to spend the least amount of time on this one. When I think about this match, I think about Otto Addo, the Ghanaian national team coach, and how he's been on and off with Ghana. Go back to the 2022 World Cup, he fits in this current of African coaches, former internationals, where federations are all of a sudden not going to the same tired old European coaches and are giving young former internationals opportunities like Jamal Belmadi, like Aliou Cissé, like Walid Regragui. And Otto Addo sort of fit in that mold. And at the 2022 World Cup, I thought he did a really good job with Ghana. I thought perhaps he could be, a long-term coach for Ghana. But then you go to these last AFCON qualifiers, and I think they leave an indelible mark on his legacy with the Black Stars. I don't remember seeing the Black Stars this poor in a very, very long time. And so for him, I think this match in particular against Mali is one that's going to define his legacy. If he manages to get a victory over Mali and secure Ghana's qualification over the next 3 match days, this is going to be one way we're going to look at Otto Addo. And if not, some of those scenes that we saw in the press conferences after the AFCON qualifiers where people, basically said, you're not even fit or suited to coach this national team. I think we're going to get some of those replicas. So I think about Otto Addo's legacy. I think about Tom Saintfiet and his shenanigans. Tom Saintfiet is a coach that knows how to master the dark arts. He said in an interview, I think with L'Equipe, the French newspaper, that when he was the coach of the Gambia and they were playing against Algeria, and he knew that he couldn't really hang with Algeria, technically speaking, or even tactically speaking. But what he did when they played in Bangui was that he made sure that the grass could grow as long as possible without really drawing too much suspicion, because that would slow the ball down. He's really good at, finding the little advantages wherever he can. He even said prior to coming to Ghana, to Accra, that this is going to be a difficult match with a raucous crowd and an English-speaking referee. What does that mean? It's just little things that he plants in your mind where he starts like planting a little bit of doubt in your mind, and he knows how to deal with these high stakes matches. He's having fun. He's sort of taking it one game at a time. He's coming from very far behind with Mali, and if he manages to turn it around, again, that's going to elevate him from somebody that could do well with smaller African national teams to somebody that's taken a national team that's never been to the World Cup, and it's going to really elevate and raise his profile all across the continent as well. I think about the midfield battle. Thomas Partey was battling illness against Chad. Ghana drew with Chad 1-1 in N'Djamena. If Thomas Partey's back, that's going to make this a battle in midfield, because we all know that Mali have had one of the strongest central midfields really over the last 15 to 20 years on the African continent. If Thomas Partey is not there, I don't think they're going to win that physical battle in midfield. I think about Lassine Saneyoko's movement, the Mali forward who's been in great form over the last year and a half. Uh, he's been one of their strengths in attack since the last AFCON. Not like your big bruising number nine, more like somebody that can run in the channels, split space between, a center half and a fullback, um, pull your defense apart, and then like he did against Comoros a few days ago, win penalties and create chances for some of the other wingers who we're also going to talk about. Kamori Dumbia, who has 6 goals in these World Cup qualifiers, that's tied for third on the African continent, or Nene Dojelis. And they have to step up. They're the 2 players that have played in every single qualifying match for Mali in these World Cup qualifiers. Again, Mali is a team, I mentioned this earlier, that has been plagued with inconsistency, with constant change. These 2 players have been a beacon of consistency for this team, and they're both young and they're both very, very good. If they can, again, step up and put in a match-winning performance here, that's going to cement their places even more. And ditto for Jordan Ayew and Mohamed Kudus. Jordan Ayew in particular has been one of the best players on the continent during the qualifiers. He can continue to perhaps change our minds about him, because often the discussion around Jordan Ayew is, oh, if he wasn't a Betty Pelly's son, he would be, there's no way he would have 100 caps for Ghana. I don't even know how many caps he has, but I'm assuming he's somewhere around there. But he's also proven in these qualifiers that he's capable of individually winning matches, particularly through his set pieces. So look out for his free kicks, look out for his corner kicks. That's how he can perhaps help Ghana win this match. So I think really it's going to be a tight match. Both these teams don't like to concede goals, whether it's Ghana or Mali. They're both excel in midfield battles. I think if a team is going to win it, it's going to come through individual brilliance. And I have a little more confidence in the individual brilliance of Mali at the moment and the momentum that Mali have. Again, Tom Saintfiet hasn't lost an official match since taking over, and they're really starting to score a lot of goals. They're initially they were just winning matches 1-0, 2-0. Now they're really winning, by scoring 3+ goals. I think Kamori Dumbia or Nanader Jealous or Lassine Sinayoko take this game. Mali beat Ghana 1-0. Now let's go on to the more juicy matches. DR Congo versus Senegal. Kinshasa, Stade des Martyrs, 60,000 strong. Let's go through a little bit of team news. Arthur Masuaku, the Sunderland left back, is back after serving suspension for accumulated yellow cards. One problem for Senegal is they've picked up a few injuries as center halves. Moussa Niakate, is his name Musa? I think his name is Musa. He picked up a partnership. He's been having a great partnership with Kalidou Koulibaly. He's picked up an injury. He won't be playing. He started most of the matches as center half alongside Kalidou Koulibaly. Abdou Diallo, the backup center half in the same mold, that left-footed player like Niakate, also injured, won't be playing as well. They're going to be relying on either Sek or Mbo, players that are backups. Are they going to be able to step up against DR Congo, playing against Cedric Bakambu? That's in really good form. Something to monitor. And then also, I'm thinking about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, former Manchester United player. I believe he's at Crystal Palace. But maybe that's wrong. But I'm thinking about, these are his first matches for DR Congo. He goes to Juba, South Sudan, and then going to Kinshasa, Stade des Martyrs. I mean, that's a baptism of fire in African football if I've ever seen one. So we'll see how he does as well. Then I think about the state of mind between these 2 players. DR Congo, I'm going, in their newspapers, their medias, and one of the articles that, a veteran journalist wrote for them recently this is the headline: "When the memory of football meets the hope of children." And he's talking about the glory days of Zaire at the time, and DRC, and how, this new generation, they have a chance to sort of join the 2 generations together and continue the glory of the DRC. I think it's very romantic, and it shows you the kind of psychological state that the country's in. They understand the magnitude of this match. Senegal, a declaration of a player, also shows you the kind of mentality they have. Pape Gueye, who started the match in midfield for Senegal against Sudan a few days ago, says, we had 2 finals. We won the first one against Sudan, and this is our second final. They're looking at a do or die match. They have to win against DR Congo, because remember, DR Congo are 1 point ahead of Senegal. And so there's no other choice, really. I mentioned that Cedric Bakambu is in really good form. He signed with Real Betis. He scored prior to the international break with Real Betis. And then against South Sudan, he scored a brace. Uh, and the DRC fans are calling him Baka goal, which I think is very disrespectful. Bati goal is the original nickname for Gabriel Batistuta. And I don't think we can call Cedric Bakambu Baka goal. That's, I don't know, rubbed me the wrong way. He's never scored more than 12 goals in a top European league. Uh, he has, I think, 18 goals in 58 matches for DRC. I don't put him there, but he's in good form and somebody to monitor. DR Congo, by the way, are, after Cameroon, one of the sides that crosses the most in African football. So with Arthur Masuaku back, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka there, I anticipate them at home putting in a lot of crosses. And that's where I think maybe the absence of Nyakate, of Abdou Diallo, maybe could trip up Senegal. Kalidou Koulibaly is going to have to step up and ensure that he commands that defense on his own if they're going to be able to shut out DRC. Final point, I think Senegal have to embrace that Route 1 football that they played against Sudan. If you go back and watch the highlights of that match, every single chance that they created was a long ball over the top. Kalidou Koulibaly, Edouard Mendy were very good with their distribution over the top. I think that's probably the way that they're going to beat DRC, because even when you go away from home, usually you don't have possession of the ball. Usually you're sitting back, and that kind of Route 1 football lends itself away when you're a visiting team, because it helps with the counterattack as well. So I think if Senegal play that way, then they might have a little bit of success. My prediction is actually going to be a scoring draw here. I think it's going to be 1-1 or 2-2, and DRC are going to take the advantage going into matchday 9 and 10. South Africa versus Nigeria, and the big news here is Victor Osimhen's ankle. Victor Osimhen played against Rwanda yesterday, messed up his ankle. It doesn't help that they were the last team to play matchday 7 of qualifiers, and so he doesn't have enough time to recover, really. It's not looking good. It's looking like he's going to be out for this match. Victor Osimhen's a warrior. He's going to want to play, but if he doesn't play, I don't think that Nigeria have a great chance in this match. And really, especially when you consider that South Africa are lining up with a very inexperienced squad, particularly in defense, really, there's no better player that you want here than Victor Osimhen. It's a good. No better player here that you want for Nigeria than Victor Osimhen. He's like releasing a fox into a hen house. He'll wreak havoc on your defense, particularly if they're not a team, with seasoned defenders. If this was Kakana and Mudau and Modiba, who have been playing together for years and years and years, either Sundowns or Bafana, you'd worry about it a little bit less. But this team is a team that has, is very inexperienced. I think they have 120 caps amongst the 26 players that are called up. Victor Osimhen would have been a big advantage for Nigeria. The other thing we have to talk about here is the litigation, because we've talked about it a lot, but South Africa played with an ineligible player, Teboho Mokoena, against Lesotho back in March, and they still haven't been docked 3 points by FIFA. I think they will be docked 3 points by FIFA. This is not information. This is just an educated guess, because when this happened with Nigeria during the 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Nigeria were docked 3 points. Not only were they docked 3 points, they were also forfeited the match 3-0. So let's do some math. Let's do some arithmetic. Right now, South Africa have 16 points. If they're docked 3 points, they'll have 13 points, right? Right now, the goal difference for South Africa is +8. If they're docked 3 points, you have to take away the 2-0 victory that they had in Lesotho, plus the 3-0 that they're going to be punished with. That takes it from +8 to +3. Nigeria are coming into this match with a +2 goal differential. So as long as Nigeria wins even 1-0, they're going to be leapfrogging South Africa, and they'll be top of the group. So that is if the litigation goes the way we expect it to, which I think it will. So these are absolutely huge stakes, and it's such a big rivalry. I can't wait for this match in Pretoria. I think it's going to be the match of the round. I think the key for both teams is set pieces. South Africa, whether it's the clubs or the national teams, but particularly the clubs, they've struggled defending set pieces. Think about how Pyramids FC undid Orlando Pirates last year. Even Mamelodi Sundowns conceded some goals in set pieces. And I remember speaking to several people in South African football and them saying, it's just not the style of play in Southern Africa. It's not the style of play in the PSL, where you have to defend 10 to 15 to up to 20 crosses per game, like you do in places like North Africa or in West Africa. And so again, you're coming in with an inexperienced defense. Are they going to be able to defend Nigeria's set pieces, particularly when they play this new striker that they have that's like 2 meters tall? His name is Tolu Arokolare, just signed with Wolves on deadline day. And this guy has been a godsend for Nigeria. He's the one that helped them win a match against Zimbabwe back in March. And he's the one that scores the goal against Rwanda yesterday, 24 hours ago. So he's going to be, thankfully, a decent replacement for Victor Osimhen. And I think if Victor Osimhen doesn't play, all their trust is really going to be in this new huge striker that they have. So South Africa are not used to defending aerial balls in the air. They're going to have to do everything they can to really defend them. And Nigeria is going to have to do everything they can to capitalize on those set pieces because they're not going to be dominating possession against South Africa away from home. The last thing for Nigeria, key to the match for them, is going to be lane discipline. We talked about it a lot, but one of the main strengths of South Africa tactically is that some of their players, it was Sipo and Bule against Lesotho, but whether it's Percy Tau, whether it's Themba Zwane, they do such a good job of finding spaces between the defending lines, between the midfield, your midfield line and your defending line. So I think Nigeria should really embrace out of possession play, play long when you do recover the ball, and focus on set pieces. I think that's going to be the key to victory to them. If there's no Victor Osimhen, finally, I need a technical leader. That's going to be Ademola Lookman. He needs to step up, as does Stanley Nwabali in his second home. We know he's been a long-time Chippa United goalkeeper. My prediction here is going to be South Africa 1, Nigeria 1. And that's going to be, should be good enough for South Africa. 2 more matches, Cape Verde versus Cameroon. First of all, never underestimate the mentality of a team that's playing to make history. Cape Verde here. They've never qualified to a World Cup, obviously. They're considered historical minnows in African football. They have way more motivation, in my opinion, and they have way more unity. Cameroon have been plagued by governance problems, whether it's from the Federation or the Ministry of Sport, although those seem to be doing a lot better over the last month or so. But still, Cape Verde seem like the more unified, coherent side. So, and they have more motivation. I also think about, the former CAF president, Ahmad Ahmad, and what he said, because he's from Madagascar, right? What he said when there was a bunch of scandals that were riddling CAF one time in a press conference. This was in Egypt, and I'm sitting there listening to him. We're in the same room, and he says, us, we're from the islands. He said, in the islands, we're used to storms. He said, the wind can be blowing, the rain can be pelting you in the face. We're still hanging on to the mast of the ship. We're still hanging on to the tree, and we're used to dealing with these crazy conditions. I thought that was a very, very interesting analogy. One of the more interesting things he said, which is not saying much during his reign. But I think about that with Cape Verde as well. Like, yeah, here I think he was talking more about Comoros, Madagascar, La Réunion. But Cape Verde are also an archipelago. They're also an island nation. I think they endure similar weather conditions. I wonder if that also means that they have a similar amount of resilience. Cape Verde also has history on their side, recent history on their side. The AFCON qualifiers in 2013 and 2021 finished 2-0 and 3-1 respectively for the Blue Sharks. Cameroon only beat Cape Verde 1 out of 4 times in Praia historically. And that was the last time, the very first time they played in Praia. That was back in 2008. 2008, I was 17 years old. I didn't have a beard. But again, talk about like mentality. Cameroon, Nuhu Tolo, their veteran left back, says, yes, our opponent is first in the group, but we're Cameroon. The arrogance that he says that with, it's not a bad thing. You need that kind of arrogance when you're Cameroon. Cameroon, they have a notion that they have that you don't have an idea of the nation. It's called La Emblée. La Emblée means like when it's time to step up, they step up in international tournaments. Also, Marc Brice, with all the commotion, he's 13 matches unbeaten. That's the best out of any other coach in Cameroonian national team history. No other coach of the Indomitable Lions has gone their first 13 matches unbeaten. So that's a stat that I saw on the internet. I think it's true, but I saw it on social media. Other things that I'm seeing online, there's a big dilemma around Vincent Aboubakar. Vincent Aboubakar, the legendary striker for Cameroon. I don't use that term lightly. He's a legendary striker. But he hasn't been fit at all. He hasn't been playing regular football. He had an assist against Eswatini 2 or 3 days ago, but he was poor. And people are calling for him to be benched. It's going to be interesting to see if Marc Brice has first of all, if he agrees with that call, and if he does, if he has the strength to bench Vincent Aboubakar. That's not an easy decision to make. Carlos Baleba is returning. He wasn't fit against Eswatini. He's returning. I think that's a huge return for the Indomitable Lions because I think he can swing the advantage in midfield on his own. And it should also be mentioned that in the first leg, and when they 2 sides played each other the first time in the group, Cameroon smashed Cape Verde 4-1, and Vincent Aboubakar scored a brace. So maybe that's a point in Vincent Aboubakar's favor for starting the match. My prediction for this one, and I don't know why I'm saying this. I'm doubting Cameroon here, even though I've been banging the drum about how much quality they have in their squad. I think Cape Verde win this match 3-1, and we're about to win this history. And this is going to be one of the biggest stories in world football. Last match that we're going to talk about is Gabon versus Cote d'Ivoire. This match is taking place in Franceville, which I think used to be called Bongoville, or maybe now it's called Bongoville. It's the reason why it's called Bongoville is because uh, the former presidents, Omar and Ali Bongo of Gabon, who ruled the country for more than 5 decades, they're both from this city. And I went to the AFCON in Gabon in 2017, and this city was the city that Algeria was based in. And so it's one that always, I think of with fond memories. Just a quick anecdote. For that AFCON, the first thing you try to do is usually try to go to the inaugural match, right? And it's one of those things that you almost always regret because the head of state is there. And if the head of state is there, that means you have to be there 6 to 7 hours ahead. And the security is crazy. Like in 2019, President Sisi of Egypt was at the stadium. And I had my backpack and I was entering through the press entrance, which I found after 1.5 hours of searching. And the security guard says, "You can't go in." I said, "Why?" He says, "What's in your bag?" I said, "I have my laptop and my charger." "No chargers allowed." So what do you mean no chargers allowed? Like I have to type up an article. How do you want me? My battery's gonna die. "Sorry, we have instructions. No chargers allowed." I argued with this guy for 90 minutes until the match was about to kick off 30 minutes prior. And I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna walk through. And if I'm completely expecting him to tackle me from behind." And I just kept walking without looking back, expecting to get tackled. And thankfully, it didn't happen. I got through, and it turns out later that there was like a problem in translation. It's not that there were no laptop chargers allowed. It's supposed to be no power banks allowed because I guess power banks can be used to make explosives or something like that. So these are, opening matches, but still, and I didn't know this in 2017, and I wanted to go to the opening match in Libreville. I went there, and the next day, Algeria played in Franceville. So I bought a plane ticket prior to going to Gabon, which was $400. Crazy. And I get to the airport when it's time for my flight, and they say, "Yeah, like, you don't have a flight." I said, "What do you mean I don't have a flight? Here's my ticket." They said, "Yeah, we're not really acknowledging this." I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, there's all the planes have been taken over by CAF, and they're CAF planes. So if you want to go put your name in the waiting list, the plane that you're supposed to fly on, all the dignitaries are on. So just put your name on the waiting list and wait." And I did. And I have my suitcase, and I get to Franceville, I think, an hour prior to the match. And I get a taxi. He drops me off because there's huge security cordons, the kilometers around the stadium. He drops me off, 2 kilometers away. I have this big brown suitcase. I'm lugging it into the stadium. Watch the matches. I think Algeria drew against Zimbabwe 2-2. Riyad Mahrez a beautiful brace. And after the match finishes, it's 10 p.m. I realize I don't have a hotel. I didn't think about that the entire time because I was dealing. Initially, I thought I would get there in time and find a hotel prior to the match. And again, like no taxis are there because of the security cordons. I'm thinking, okay, I ask people like, where can I get a hotel? Where can I get a hotel? The stadium is kilometers away from downtown. And they just one guy tells me, "Look, you see this roundabout down there? Take the roundabout, walk across the dirt path, 20 to 30 minutes. There's a forest. Walk along the edge of the forest. You're going to see a house with a bunch of lights on outside. Knock on the door and tell them you need to sleep there." This guy serious? And I did it. I carried like this 23-kilo bag on like this on my back, and I walked. There's no lights at all, and I'm walking in the darkness in the middle of a forest, half expecting to be attacked by some kind of wild animal or something like that. And sure enough, there's a separation, an opening, a clearance in the trees, a little cottage with a light out on outside. I paid, I think it was like 25,000 or 30,000 CFA, which was very, very expensive. I think it's the equivalent of, I don't recall, but I think it was like $70 or $80 for a dirty bed. Uh, and I just slept. I was so tired. I just slept. And the next day I got a hotel in the city. But these are sort of the anecdotes that you have, when you're covering an AFCON as a freelance journalist. So I always think about Franceville with that in mind. But anyways, we don't digress anymore. Gabon versus Cote d'Ivoire is taking place there. So you have to know it's like the president's city. And even the current, even though there's been a coup d'etat, the current head of state is the cousin of Ali Bongo, the former head of state. And several Gabonese officials, including Police and Gama, are going to be there to push on Gabon. They're also very much realize that this is going to be, an absolutely massive match. And all the pressure is on them. They are recuperating Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who joined the team on Friday. He wasn't there for the Seychelles match. Jimmy Alavina, Xavier Babika, Didier Ndong, Mario Lamina, Denis Bouanga, who played against Seychelles and scored a hat-trick. They're all present in Fonceville, and they're all ready to challenge Cote d'Ivoire. Denis Bouanga is the statistical leader when it comes to goal scoring in these qualifiers. He has 8 goals, more than Mohamed Salah, more than Mohamed Amin Moura, more than Jordan Ayew, more than Kamori Doumbia. He's been the player that's really stepped up for Gabon since he's joined the Gabonese national team in that AFCON in 2017. And it's one of those things where I think about him and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And I was listening to a debate in Cameroon recently where why am I forgetting Junior's last? Junior Binyam, former head of communications for CAF, was talking about Roger Mila versus Samuel Eto'o. And everybody's saying, oh, Samuel Eto'o is the greatest Cameroonian player of all time. But he's saying, yeah, but for Cameroonians, Roger Mila is more legendary because he did more for the Cameroonian national team. He won 2 AFCONs like Samuel Eto'o, but when it was the World Cup, he was the one that, propelled Cameroon to do special things. Samuel Eto'o, he said, was a player amongst 11 players when they won the AFCONs. I think similar of it here. Like, there are players that even though, like, if you ask a random British person or French person who's the better player, who has the better career, Denis Bouanga or Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I think everybody's going to say Aubameyang. But if you ask a Gabonese fan who stepped up for your national team more when it was needed, it's going to be Denis Bouanga. And I think if Gabon are going to have success, it's going to come through Denis Bouanga again, the player currently playing at LAFC. That said, like, Cote d'Ivoire haven't conceded a goal yet, and I don't think they're going to concede a goal here. So I do expect them to hold on to a 0-0 draw, and I think Cote d'Ivoire are going to come away with the advantage. Anyways, I'm going to stop being weird. I'm recording a podcast in the middle of everybody's working space, so thank you for listening. I just wanted to make sure I get this out before the matches start tomorrow. Let me know who you think is going to qualify. And please do watch all of these matches because it's going to be some of the most entertaining football I think you're going to see in world football. Thanks again for listening, and I'll speak to you after the matches to recap everything. I'll be at home by then, and I'll be completely at ease. Speak soon. All. Peace.